As Eskom battles the power challenges as we're in stage 6, it's become necessary to come up with innovative ways to try and help Eskom to keep the lights on. Independent power producers with renewable energy are generally seen as key in doing this and making sure that we can cut our carbon footprint in the future. We're joined now by the head of power and renewables at ABSA Securities U.K, Bhavtik Vallabhjee. Bhavtik, good evening to you and thank you for your time. It's easy when I look out over Joburg tonight and I see literally darkness everywhere to think that nothing is changing in our power sector. You see it differently. How do you see it?
Good evening, Stephen, and good evening to your viewers. Look, I mean, I think we've got to look at the entire picture, and as much as we're all kind of disappointed with what's going on with load shedding, and it obviously affects us deeply, there has been, a fair amount of progress that's been made by Eskom or by South Africa's IPP office over the last 10, 12 years. And I think the proof of the pudding is really when you look at South Africa in the context of really what has been happening in the region. And it is really a country where you've had scale in terms of rolling out renewable energy projects versus almost every other country in sub-Saharan Africa.
So what you're saying is that because of the size of our economy and the way and the quickness, the speed at which things are being done, there is a lot more renewable energy, a lot more renewable generation than there used to be.
Correct, yes. Look, I certainly am not condoning what's going on in terms of load shedding, and there is still a lot more that needs to be done, but certainly I think there's been a fair amount of progress that has been made by our country, specifically with regards to renewable energy and cleaning up our act, as you may want to call it, in terms of moving away gradually from coal, embracing other technologies such as renewable energy.
We've been reliant on coal for a very long time. We have a whole industry around it. We have entrenched interests around it, as the sort of technical phrase that people use. It was always going to be hard to move away from coal and towards renewables. Is this the crisis that's going to force it?
Sometimes things need to go wrong before they get right. And look, in as much as, coal is pretty much the mainstay of our economy in terms of mining, in terms of job creation, in terms of our current power generation mix, I do think that, we are doing a lot that is positive. And I think that renewable energy really will be the way of the future, and South Africa is very much on the right trajectory.
How long do you think it'll be before we feel it? And by that I mean an end to load shedding, and I realize, Bhavtik, that's probably an unfair question to ask you. But do you think that we're going to feel the impact of this in the near future?
Well, look, I think unfortunately we will. The reality of the matter is that, we still have a significant we don't have a very large power reserve, and there's a lot of new generation capacity that needs to be added so that we are in a situation where we can kind of withstand these unforeseen circumstances. And when it gets cold like it is currently in Johannesburg, when you have a very low reserve, basically it's going to hurt us where we don't want it to, unfortunately.
A lot of people are very angry with government. They're very angry with the Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe. He denied yesterday that he was to blame for this. Is government to blame for this? What I'm trying to get to is, do you believe, from what you know, from what you see, that government, the Energy Department with the policy, NERSA, the energy regulator with the applications and the licenses and the red tape that seems to go on forever, do you believe they're moving as quickly as is humanly possible?
Well, look, I don't think so. I think the honest truth is a lot more needs to be done, and it needs to be done quickly. The reality is there's no shortage of money that is waiting to go the way of clean energy projects, whether you're talking about debt financing or you're talking about international sponsors looking at trying to build renewable energy projects. I think really what we need to do as a country is get our act together and set timelines and stick by them. And that's the only way we're going to get this done relatively quickly. The reality is when we set timelines, when we issue RFPs and we don't stick to them, or we don't get these projects closed quickly enough, then this is what culminates. The reality is these projects take a long time to actually construct, and if you start now, it's going to take you 2 years, 2.5 years before your 240 megawatt wind farm or 240 megawatt solar park is actually ready. So we've got to do things now to ensure we don't have this in future years.
Bhavtik Vallabhjee, thank you. Head of Power and Renewables at ABSA Securities UK on the line from Johannesburg.